I want to bring in our first guest. Patiently waiting is Dale Lee, president of the WVEA. Dale, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me. And Bill, I want you to know I have my tie on right already in this interview.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing you, Dale. It only makes a difference if you're sitting beside me.
I'm never going to do an interview with you again that I don't have a tie on. I know that.
Noted. Noted.
Yeah. Well, Dale, we miss you. We miss you having you not sitting beside us here.
I miss being there.
Dale, some changes were made, but ultimately the PEIA changes have been approved by the Finance Board, and this will result in some cost increases for workers and retirees. So basically what's new, health insurance costs are going up once again, not just for PEIA employees, of course, but for pretty much everybody. I think my wife's a federal employee. Her increase was around 14 or 15% this year, which just seems egregious. But Dale, what will this mean in dollars and cents for public employees who use PEIA in regards to their premiums?
Well, you're looking at a 14% increase in premiums, which I believe averages about $35 additional dollars a month. You're looking at a 40% increase in co-pays, out-of-pocket costs, and those types of things, which will be an average out-of-pocket increase will be $1,600. Average deductible increase will be about $355. The average premium increase will be about $31.50 a month. And then the spouse penalty or the spouse coverage will go up from $147 to $350. Now, the key to that, though, is that doesn't affect everybody whose spouse is on PEIA. It only affects if your spouse is employed somewhere else, not a state employee, somewhere else, and their employer provides or has the opportunity to provide health insurance. If they choose to stay on PEIA, then that's where the $350 spouse surcharge comes into play.
Dale, I listened in part to the governor's press conference yesterday, and I came away with two things. One, that is those legislators that got us into this problem in the first place, and that they were, and he tried to get us out of it, but working with the legislators is a difficult thing to do. So basically, passing the buck to the other guys. What is your sense of how we can get out of this, Dale?
Now, one of your co-hosts is a delegate, and you're setting me up to fail right there already.
See, that's what you get for not wearing a tie.
That's right, exactly right.
I'm patiently biting my lip right now.
One time without a tie, and man, they turn on you quick.
Yeah, man, you got it, brother.
But see, now if you were here, you could be looking Mike eye to eye, and whoever blinked first would be the winner. So.
I tell you, Mike does a good job there. He represents the people in his district extremely well. And I was listening to him about the special sessions, and I agree with that. I mean, everything seems to be in a hurry for that. One of the things that bothers me, and not so much in the off year because it's a carryover year, but I will bet you that at the beginning of this session, with brand new senators, brand new delegates, everything else, there may be an attempt to not so much in the House but in the Senate to suspend the rules and pass some bills in the first couple days. Well, there's a process you go through, the committee process, where you can vet these things and everything, and I think Mike and others have talked about that's where you need to do it is to discuss it and learn those things. So that's going to be concerning. But as far as passing the buck, everybody has to have some skin in the game, and I've said that repeatedly. But in this plan, most of the skin is coming from the employees. If you had the language in that the state should pay no less than 80% and the employees should pay no more than 20%, then with these surpluses that we have had over the years and continue to tout, I mean, even the latest revenue estimates for November, we have a surplus. The state could put additional money in to offset some of these costs. The bill that we've introduced and will be introduced again this year, hopefully it moves now, would actually give the state a cushion in that in years that it put more in than the 80%, you could bank that, and in a year that you had a lean year for the state and couldn't put the 80% in, you could use up to 10% of what you've used in the past. So in a lean year, let's say the state put in 90%, 90%, 90%, and then all of a sudden you had a bad year, then the state could only put in 70%, and the employees would come up with 30% of that. That's the language that makes sense to me, and hopefully we can get that moving in this session. Because if you get that moving and get some additional dollars in, we could actually go back in May, like we did a couple of years ago when they passed Senate Bill 268, and redo this plan. The Finance Board, their hands were tied yesterday as far as the premiums and the cost. What they did do on the recommendation that we made is to keep the tiers at 10 instead of the 5. Remember when I was there last month, I talked about the winners and losers in that. So they kept that at 10. And then secondly, the retiree subsidy that would have had an increase in cost to the retirees, they kept that the same. Now, the unfortunate part is the retiree premiums are still going to go up by 12%, and you're going to see some costs there. It still would take less than $10 million to prevent the retirees from having any increase at all. Mike, I think Mike will agree that if you make it a priority, you can easily find $10 million in the billions of dollar budget that the state has. So I am putting that on the legislature that they have to find a way to do that. And Governor-elect Morrissey said in the debate that is one of his top priorities. He will look at that strongly. So hopefully we can all go to the table and figure out a way to come up with a plan that actually works and makes sense.
Now, Mike, before you go, I just want to clarify the 80-20 split. Is that strictly on premium, or does that include out-of-pocket costs? Strictly premium.
Yes.
Okay. Michael Haidt, go ahead.
Well, I certainly take exception to anybody that would say this is the legislature's fault. That
I didn't say it was their fault.
No. The governor did. The governor did.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not accusing you of anything, Dale.
Dale, I think he's accusing you of saying that. I do.
Well,
no, not at all.
You don't have a tie. You
got to take your lumps.
I believe it was the governor who halted premium increases for 5 or 6 years, and didn't give a whole lot of room for the legislature to say no to that. And what happens is when you freeze them like that, the increases still keep coming. It just they get out of whack, and we weren't at 80-20 anymore. We were at not closer to 90-10 of what the state was paying. Now, I'm not saying that's the PEIA's fault. I'm not saying that's anybody's fault other than the governor. He made those decisions. As far as the legislature, PEIA came to us 2 years ago and said the providers are going to stop accepting PEIA. It doesn't pay enough, so it would be worthless insurance for the state employees if we don't do something about it. We need $80 million in order to shore it up. And the legislature came through and provided the $80 million to shore it up. And then they come to us last year and said, the premium increases are going to be so high. If we don't do something about this, we need another $87 million. Well, the legislature came through again and provided $87 million to shore up PEIA. And a lot of that was to say, hey, we don't want premium increases. They're going to probably be premium increases this coming year, but we don't want them to be through the roof. And that's one of the reasons we need the $87 million as well. So I'll tell you, as a legislator, I was a bit surprised when the increases still came through at 14%. I wasn't happy. Most legislators were not happy when they saw that was the case. So, who do we blame? Yeah, I certainly don't think it's the legislature who have tried to make this right, there are many legislators that are on PEIA and are affected directly. So I think they want to make it right as well. Part of the problem is insurance is just going up, period. As somebody that works in the private sector and provides insurance to my employees, I have dealt with this every single year since ACA went into effect. And my premiums have gone up. My employees' premiums have gone up every single year. So it's not that I don't have empathy for the people on PEIA, but right now, they're feeling what me and my employees have been feeling for years.
There's a philosophical question, and I think it's appropriate because you and Dale are on opposite sides of this.
I don't think we're on opposite sides.
But the question is, should the state be in the insurance business?
Well, in my opinion, absolutely not.
And Dale's opinion, should be. Yes.
The state needs to get out of all of these businesses that don't have to do with governance, and whether that is the insurance business or that is in the hospital business, whatever it is. Government needs to get the heck out of it.
Let me come back to
privatize
Dale on this because we've talked to you about this before. Yes. Dale, your thoughts on this?
Right, and while I do agree with Mike that the $87 million that they put in during the special session, what that was used for was to prevent a premium increase mid-year in this plan. The PEIA needed $87 million because of the drug costs. And a couple other variables in there to prevent a premium increase in the middle of the year. And I'm very appreciative of the legislature for stepping up and doing that. And he's right. They have stepped up several times. And the Bill 268, where the premium, you saw a 24.5% premium increase, was because we didn't have premium increases over 3 years, that the governor just kept putting money in. So the legislature corrected that. However, privatizing it, in a way, we are a privatized insurance plan anyway, because PEIA has to bid out the drug prescription plan, the medical plan, and everything else. What happens, though, is the administrative costs are very low with PEIA. We keep that in-house. It's less than 8%. If you go out on the private market, generally the private market has an administrative cost of about 20%. That's about the average administrative cost. So some company may come in the first year and say, we can do this a lot cheaper. And for the first year they can. But after that, the employees are going to take the brunt of it, and the state actually is going to take the brunt, because they're going to have to pay a portion of that too, and you will be at the mercy of a for-profit company then, and they're for-profit for a reason.
Well, Dale, you make some great points there. However, because it is not privatized, it may seem so in some ways. When it is not privatized and still state-run, it becomes a political football constantly, and the ones that suffer are the people on PEIA that are constantly in flux and don't know where they are. So that's why I think we need to privatize it and put it out on the market. The state is still going to have to pay the 80%, even if it's out on the market. But it stops becoming a political football. It stops the governor from doing one thing and the legislature from doing another thing. And the people caught in the middle are the state employees that have to rely on this insurance. And that's why I think it needs to be privatized.
I respect your opinion on that, but again, I would disagree that totally privatizing it, would end up costing the state and the employees far more money in the long run.
And in a state like West Virginia, but the market provides competition, and competition is what provides price controls. West Virginia has shown through the ACA that there is no competition for that money when it comes to private health insurance.
There actually is competition in this, in that they bid out the prescription plan. I think it's like every 2 to 3 years you have to get bids on that. You have to come up with the best plan for that. You bid out the medical portion of it. You bid out the retiree portion of it. Humana has been awarded the contract the last couple times. I think they will probably do it again. So these are bid out anyway, so you have that competition there. The difference is, one, keeping the administrative costs where they are. Two, the plan that we have is based on your ability to pay with the tiers, and a private plan is not like that. And three, the balanced billing that PEI has, and that if you have a bill that's $5,000 and insurance pays $2,000, you pay your deductible and copay, and then they can't charge you for the remainder of that. In a private plan, you're responsible for the remainder of that.
And there are more than one insurance provider in West Virginia.
Sure.
And with the advent of a new one that is brought in by the hospitals have created their own Peak. I think it's called Peak Insurance or Peak Health or whatever. And theirs is a tiered system as well. Theirs isn't risk-based like other insurance. So, now that there's 3 or 4 different ones in West Virginia, I think you could have competition and you could bid it out and keep it reasonable like everybody else is paying.
Dale, we've got about a minute left. Do you anticipate any blowback from the Teachers Association / unions regarding this agreement?
Again, this is the plan that was adopted. We thought this would be the plan that was adopted because the Finance Board couldn't do anything financially. They couldn't decrease the premiums. They couldn't decrease the deductibles. They had to come up. They have a fiscal responsibility to shore it up. It becomes a matter now of let's find out where we can get some additional money. And again, I'm asking the legislature, the providers, everybody to let's go to the table and if let's look at everything, even the privatizing. I'd be willing to look at. It would be hard to convince me, but I would go in with an open mind. But if we're not at the table, if we're not at the table, we're the main course.
Oh, good way of putting it. Dale, thanks so much for your time this morning. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
I like that tie, Dale. Looks nice.
Oh, yeah, it's a nice one today.